Is that closed over there? All right.
Getting there. Hello.
Oh, is it going?
It is going.
Seems like it was just Saturday, like a week ago.
You're fighting.
Am I?
No, really. Well, I mean, you are, but good evening, people.
Is it kicking in?
Pardon?
It's going.
Yes, people are waving thumbs up, little hearts.
Hey, hello everyone, or whoever's here.
Oh, I like that.
Do you?
Someone asked if you give critiques. We're working on that
We're
as a level.
we're working on as a feature to be able to do that, so that I can actually take some time
Yes.
and
Because I have a couple people on your Patreon page that would be first in line. They have asked.
But the answer to the question is yes. We're trying to figure out how to do it so that it is manageable. Right?
Correct. That is correct. What is the pencil you're using? That's
This is a fixed pencil. It's a clutch pencil. It has an 8B lead in it. Caran Dash fixed pencil 77 metal. So, one of the nicer ones that I mean, in terms of lead holders, I think they run about $20 for the lead holder.
Per lead holder?
Yeah. But I mean, you really only have to buy one or two of them, depending on what you want to do.
That is true.
And then I get these 8B Kohinoor leads, which these are the softest, smoothest leads for mechanical pencils that I've found so far. Yeah, they're actually not easy to get. They go out of they sell out quite easy. I get them on Amazon, but they go out of like they don't have them that often. Anyway.
Wacko Gecko Art says he uses those too.
Oh, cool. I like it. They're very smooth leads.
I like what you're doing there.
I'm not sure what I'm doing yet. It seems to be.
I think it looks so you know what you're doing right there.
Sort of.
I like it.
This is a kind of more of a graphite kind of study for a piece I actually have laid out and planned for painting. So it'll differ quite a bit from the actual finished piece. But I'll find things in this that I'll definitely bring into the other. And then I'll have essentially the study and the painting.
Very cool. So, you are right. It is Saturday night.
So this is kind of what layouts generally look like. I don't know if you can, I'm moving it up. My 4K recorder only records about this much of an image area, unless I pull it back so far, and then you can't see any detail.
What are those things at the bottom?
This is more like stone or wood, or it could even be like that the basalt that's kind of like you see in the vein rock.
Kenji says hi.
Oh, Kenji.
Yes.
From Alameda?
Yes.
Hey, Kenji. He was a neighbor of ours when we lived in California. So I try not to be, I know this sounds weird, but at first I try not to be too careful with layout because, I don't want to restrain myself early on. So that's why it's kind of sketchy like this. And then as I go along, it starts to refine more and more into stuff that looks like these. I've just kind of built I guess you could say I built this way of working in the last 5 or 6 years.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm getting ready to start doing some more of the graphite wash stuff too,
And oil paints.
and oil. Yeah. And combining both of those two things.
Do your drawings come from your dreams?
Uh, they they come from, if you want to call it daydreams. They're sort of, uh, for lack of a better term, like when a daydream is probably the closest thing. I'll sit and think about things, and sometimes I'll be listening or reading, listening to an audiobook or something, and I'll have like certain kinds of imagery just sort of kind of appear in my head, and then I just sort of like, follow it to its conclusion usually. Sometimes it's a matter of sketching and just playing with the sketch until something shows up, which happens quite a bit too.
I like it.
Um,
How many hours typically go into a single piece?
it depends on the piece, but like something like this could go upwards of 20 or 30 hours for a drawing. It actually works a little faster in painting,
Right.
and they're usually
Since-
not like linear hours. Like I'll be doing like 3 or 4 other things at the same time. Like I have other contract work that I have to do, so I can't like completely work on one thing at a time.
Right.
Um, the longest time I ever spent on a piece was a month, and it's that one over there. You can show them that if you want. This,
Yes, I will.
yeah, that's like the biggest, longest time I've ever spent on a piece of graphite work.
Coming from Colombia,
Oh, hello, Colombia.
South Korea.
Cool, South Korea.
How do you mix oil paint and graphite?
You have to
Oil.
seal. You have to seal the graphite with a like a medium of some kind. I use usually matte medium or gloss medium, depending on what I want to do. Just so that you don't move the graphite around. I mean, the graphite's going to be stable, but if you put anything liquid on top of it, it will move around. And if you're into that, it can work too. It can get very expressive and very gestural, but you'll lose things if you've drawn a lot of tight detail in
Right.
the underdrawing. You'll lose a lot of that.
Candor Art says, greetings from South Korea. I love these lives. You're so inspiring.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, thank you
you.
very much.
How many hours a day do you draw?
It's hard to say specifically because I kind of do this all day back and forth. But I mean, I would say at least I get anywhere from 5 to 8 to 10 hours. It depends on my what I need to get done. Sometimes upwards of, if I'm working like in concept stuff, I might even do 14 or 15.
Try not to do that.
But I try not to do that too much because that gets hard to do after a few days. But I definitely, in the last year, I've done more contract concept work than in previous years. And there were a couple of days where I did 16 and 18 hours and just had like 4 hours sleep and then went back at it. But that was an exception rather than the rule.
Hello from New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand. I love hearing from all these places that I want to go.
Hira Brahmian says, hey man, your advice about drawing consistently daily is really paying off. My art's getting better.
Well, I'm glad. It's great to hear that it's working out. It doesn't even, and like I said before, it doesn't have to start off huge. You don't want to burn yourself out of trying something. See, I used to do this thing where I would get involved in something and I would become a maniac. I would just like do it and nothing else. Like I played racquetball, and when I played racquetball, I would practice for 3 hours a day. And I ended up like nearly destroying my shoulder because of it. But I got,
Or you had more consistent drawing into.
well, yeah, and that was back when I wasn't drawing as much, but
and no kids.
and no kids. But I did get to a point where I was, becoming proficient at it, at
Yeah.
least competent. I never, you don't suffer from practice, no matter how little practice you put in, as long as it's something.
Hello from Shreveport, Louisiana, in
Oh, cool.
the UK.
Shreveport, not too far away,
Mm-mm.
and the UK is much further away.
Oh, it's the paper is the Strathmore 400 series.
I've tried to kind of settle on like at least for things that are like that I want to be on a generally decent paper, because if I get super expensive paper right off the bat, I tend to not want to experiment on it. So, and Strathmore paper is really good without being too expensive. It's a good grade paper and it has good tooth. I'm about to get a dehumidifier for this room because my paper starts to, we live in Mississippi, so the paper, like, we have a lot of humidity, and it starts to cause things to buckle. And you can see it in this already from opening it up earlier. It starts to make the paper wave. It'll go away, but,
I live from Peru.
Peru. Well, that's cool.
Let me get some questions in here. Do you ever smudge the drawing?
I do. I keep the tortillas, the little smudge tools. I'll use those. I'll use
I think maybe they're talking about with their hand.
with my hand. Yeah. I mean, you mean
Accidentally?
accidentally? Yeah, I do that all the time. I just don't mind it because I'm going to end up working back into it so much that I'm going to cover up any smudge that's going to be there. And I have all these kneaded erasers that I can get it back to mostly white. And the highest white on my board is generally darker than the white of the paper.
Right.
So I just try to control my values so that I don't have to worry about that. So if anything in the important parts gets smudged, it's going to get darker than that anyway, most of the time.
Sending love from Mexico.
Oh, hello, Mexico.
How long have you been drawing for?
Well, one way or another, as early as I can remember, but professionally since about 1988. So, a long time.
Fiona says, my art teacher was getting us to do a zine every week, 8 drawings a week, and I thought that was a lot. It is a lot.
Well, that's, yeah, but I mean, if you can maintain that, there's a lot to be said for, intense practice like that. You may get to a point where, when you're not in school, that you can't maintain that level of practice and work at the same time, depending on what you start to do.
Right.
But, once you can do that, you sort of like always have that. So that's not a bad thing. But if you're not in a class and you're having trouble getting back to drawing, the number one thing to do is just do it in small bites, just a little bit, 5 or 10 minutes a day even, and that can take you a long way. So
Painting is a bit of a struggle for me. Any tips?
painting, it's funny. I've heard opinions about painting going in both directions. That there are some old classic artists that say that it's it's just like drawing, and other people say it's not drawing at all. But when I start painting, I approach it like drawing, and it seems to work for what I do. And so I just look at it like I'm doing the same thing with paint that I'm doing with pencil. And the one thing that I think every time I start a painting, or anything really, is that it's an underdrawing or an underpainting until I'm done with it. So I can change or start over at any point. There's no stress on making it perfect. It can go through if you're not having to do it for somebody for a contract, you can go through as many iterations. You can play with it as long as you want. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just keep playing with it, or get it to a point and say this one isn't working and start it again with all that new information.
Unless you're trying to get it done for Dragon Con.
Unless you're trying to get it done for Dragon Con or a show or something like that. Then you want to. But usually at that point you've become a professional and you're trying to get things done for sale or whatever.
Right.
But
we are going to be at Dragon Con next weekend.
Yep, we will.
We'll be in the vendors hall. If anyone is in the Atlanta area for Dragon Con.
So, and we will have. We're going to start this week. It'll be available on Patreon first for this week. We're starting the very small limited edition print run of the Pan's Labyrinth plates that I did for the book.
Yes.
We promised the Patreon people that they could have access to them first, so they will. But we can only do an edition of 10 of each.
Correct.
So it's very limited. There will be 10 prints and 1 artist proof to be sold. Through those things. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention that because we're going to have some of them at Dragon Con.
Yes.
But for this next week, people on Patreon will have access to it if they want.
Yes.
You don't have to. It's not mandatory. So.
Patreon.com/Alan Williams. Just your name. Ola says, my 12-year-old son and I are watching this together. I recently introduced him to your art. He really likes it. It's awesome. We can share this.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. I love drawing with kids, my kids, anybody's kids, really. I love, hanging around, and it's some of the most, I guess you could say, peaceful times that I have.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are actually in the other room right now watching Doctor Who. But my daughter will come in here at times and draw and paint with me, and my son does too. He's actually trying to think of he's working on his own like a web comic right now that he wants to draw. And I've had to convince him that he doesn't have to do like, it doesn't have to be like super perfect looking, that as long as it's expressive and funny, or whatever he wants to write for it,
Right.
that people will get into it. So.
Do you feel that minimalist and conceptual art are viewed as superior in the gallery world, and how do you deal with this?
Oh, well, yeah, there's a lot of different places that have like opinions about, the level of different kinds of art. I just think they're different things entirely. It's like those like minimalist art and the different types of like the kind of things you're talking about. To me, they have different purposes. They exist for a different kind of a narrative, and I don't really I don't really feel like the comparison about whether or not what I'm doing is as good as that. It's like to me, it's not even they're not even the same things. They're attempting to do something different, and yeah, it's kind of weird to me that people like to look at it like it's a level thing. It's just a statement thing. It depends on the kind of statement you want to make. There's no, it's you can't look at a black on black painting and say that there's more expertise in that, but it's not about expertise. It's not about mastery of the paint. It's about the statement,
Right.
right? And we had this discussion a couple like last week, I think, or the week before, where to me it's odd that people will do something like that. Like I'm not even know whose painting I'm talking about with the black on black, because
I can't remember.
but and then kind of make a living repeating that same statement over and over again. That to me is a little odd. It's like a little strange to me. I don't see what they're getting out of it, but that's
Right.
not my art.
Right.
I mean, other than money. So,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense. Ken Roy says, watching Doctor Who, excellent parenting.
Yeah,
Yes, he's so kind. A
We
little
love-
scary.
we love Doctor Who though because he's so positive. He's so human positive
Yes.
in all its forms.
Okay.
And
Blake says, any tips on how to get into commercial work? When the economy crashes, I feel like a massive following won't afford artists that sell their work through Instagram or won't be doing well when that happens.
when the economy crashes, it hits everybody pretty much in different ways.
Yeah, remember, nobody needs art.
Yeah, and that's the thing is sometimes it's a really weird thing because it sometimes has the opposite effect though, that when things are going kind of bad in the world, people will sometimes channel their emotions toward art more because they're wanting to escape into it more. So, it really all depends on where you're focusing and what you're doing. In terms of illustration, I mean, I don't see it like disappearing, right?
Right.
But if you're trying to get in it, and if you can get into illustration when it's kind of like the world is in a hard shape, then you're going to do pretty good when it's not, right? But in terms of what it takes to get into kind of illustration, in my opinion, you basically have to get to a point where you have a professional level competence in what you're doing. You don't even necessarily have to have a complete style at that yet, but at least you can bring things to a professional level, something that looks like, find a representation of something that is of that level that's published, and you could probably do that. There's a big range of things out there, and a bit of it is being consistently out in the world and the luck of the draw.
Right.
Because you might have a particular style that comes into vogue at some point, and or you might be able to work in a way that is just both competent and even if it's not like where you're going to end up style wise. I used to like look at people's work and ask myself how they did what they did in terms of like specific things, like how did they paint skin tone, or how did they. And then I stopped doing that. I started asking myself, how did they get to the level to do what they did? And I started wanting to not emulate what they did, but emulate my own that level.
Right.
So I didn't want to paint skin or forms or figures like somebody, but I wanted to paint it that it looked like it was
As well.
that level.
Right.
So
We have some more questions.
Keeping yourself
Uh,
out in the public, though, that helps
yes.
more than anything. Getting yourself seen.
They're being very complimentary.
Oh, that's very
Do
kind.
you want me to repeat them?
You don't have
Usually-
to. But, I mean, you can if you want, but I'll look through. I appreciate the compliments, but I get
I know.
embarrassed.
I know you get embarrassed. Do you come up with the story before you start drawing, and are your illustrations linked to the same world or narrative?
A lot of my stuff that is personal comes from the same place, I think. And the most honest and yet probably the weirdest answer I can give you is these things tell me the story as I do them. There's a lot of it that occurs to me, and then that's a romantic way of saying it. You may even want to, you could call it a metaphor if you want to call it that. But the narrative of each piece sort of comes from the piece itself. Like as I do it, I start to hear.
Although you
Or-
do have like scraps of paper. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, I have bits and pieces of things that I will
They're
write
all over.
that eventually attach themselves to a narrative. Like I'll write something and not know what it's for, and then do a piece. What? Oh, I'm pointing over here. I'll write something and not know what it's for, and then do a piece, and I'll go, this is for that piece. You know?
Yes, there's stacks of them, or mat board, or
Yeah.
board. You had it on a piece of board. The other
Yeah.
night.
I'll write on whatever's convenient. I've got stuff written over here, and
Which
you
just
know,
makes
it's
it a
like,
little difficult to keep track of it all.
well, this links back to the muddy colors thing I was talking about not ignoring something when you're inspired.
Right.
And
Just-
if you have to, write it on your hand, whatever is around is what it gets written on, so I don't lose it,
yes.
Sometimes it's a sketchbook and sometimes it's not, but I do have, like I've
We
written
found
on
your book.
my desk. Yeah, we did. I have a whole book of actual writing that came about from a single piece of work that inspired like a few pieces that I haven't done yet. And the book went missing, that it was all written in for
It
about
wasn't
3 or 4 months.
missing. It was just put away safely so that I forgot where I put it.
Okay. We'll go with
I'm
that.
sure that
We
was
can go
me.
with that.
It
Yeah.
was not you.
So, but we found it again.
Yes.
I mean, you remembered where it was.
I did.
Uh,
Well, since you couldn't find it looking through everything,
I did.
figured I picked it up and put it somewhere for safekeeping. That's just usually what happens.
so,
It's true. It's true. Okay, we're going to be at Dragon Con next week, which is in Atlanta.
Yep.
We are in the America's Mart building. Oh, shit. Which building are we in? The second building. It's the one with the vendors hall. So,
yeah, go to
right?
the second building.
It's on the first.
Whichever.
Shut up. So it's on the first floor, which is European floor. So it's actually the second floor. It's not the ground floor, but it's the first floor. We're big 1206.
Is it the Apparel Mart you said?
America's Mart.
America's Mart. Okay.
They call it it was the Apparel Mart, or maybe it is. It's called America's Mart. There's like 4 buildings.
Yeah.
But the second one is the vendor's hall.
So,
Son asks, what do you suggest for beginners sketching pencil set? He doesn't know what are best and what prices get expensive.
you know what? You can. The best stuff to go to just to start with is probably the Faber-Castell pencils that are like not too expensive. They sent us a lot of pencils here recently, and they're really smooth and consistent leads and stuff. They don't get as dark as some of the other stuff that I use. But that
But-
being said, that's not if it's not important to you to go really black in a piece, it won't
Right.
matter.
Right,
And
right.
for a good beginner or or people that like to work in a little bit of a higher key, those Faber-Castell pencils are really good for that. But you can, you can draw with anything.
Right. And
Graphite,
you don't need a whole bunch of different leads or anything like that either.
right? No. I mean, you can use a mechanical pencil, or you can just. This is the Faber-Castell kind of stuff, and this is a 6B, and it's okay. This is a 6B. It's pretty good. I mean, they're consistently good leads. I use my favorites are the Tombow Monos, but they get more expensive.
Yeah.
And the Mitsubishi
And you know
Heinz.
what? You could try Black Wings. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah,
You can-
those are Blackwings are pretty expensive too.
Oh,
But if you're talking about just a starter set, Faber-Castell makes a lot of starter sets for that kind of thing.
Just don't use the Ticonderoga.
Well, like I said,
That's
you
just
can. No, that's you're being a snob.
I personally don't like them for writing, like
Well,
for the kids writing their papers,
right.
because they're so hard.
Well, some of those pencils
They're not
have
HBs.
inconsistencies in the lead, and they'll have like if you're trying to do gradations and shading,
Yes.
you'll hit a part that's like rough, and all of a sudden the pencil will just make marks, and
Uh,
not marks like pencil lead marks, but like scratches in the
Scratches
paper.
in the paper. This
So-
is a Strathmore 400 series medium weight paper.
Right.
Paper he's been using
For a while now.
for a while now.
I
and
do it
then this
with-
is just a Crayon Dash fixed pencil 77 with an 8B lead in it.
But so I would probably go for the Faber-Castell leads, and usually you can find those at most stores that carry arts and crafts stuff. Even like stuff like places like Michael's will have Faber-Castell.
Mm-hmm.
Michael's is a craft store, and they have pretty basic art supplies there. I hope that helps a little bit.
And I'm sure it does. Let's see. Hold on. Sorry. How do you deal with attachment to certain pieces? Are there any that you have had a hard time parting with?
It's interesting. It's funny to me that like I'll finish a piece and then I'll move on to the next piece pretty quickly. And because we make our living doing this, they typically will either sell online or sell at the shows that we go to. And it's been weird over the years. I've realized that if something stays, if something doesn't sell, it's funny because I'll get more attached to the one that didn't sell. And it'll stay and hang out for a while, and all of a sudden I'll get attached to it the longer it's here.
Then I'll sell it.
And then, eventually it'll sell, and then I feel it for those. But, especially lately, I guess, with a lot of the kind of the stuff I've been doing, I have had a few pieces that have gone out that I missed having them in the studio because they were a particular statement that I felt like I've made that was what I wanted to say exactly in terms of the piece.
Mm-hmm.
But with that knowledge, though, I still also have that part of me that says that happened, that statement is there, it exists somewhere, and it became important to somebody else too. And they have the piece, and I can continue, I move on to the next one. So yeah, it's funny because especially when I first started, I wasn't very attached to things. I would just do them and make stuff and then let it go and then move on to the next thing. But the more that I do and the more personal it gets, that's when the more attached I get to it,
Right.
to the work that I do. But the thing is that I always have a representation of that work. Like these pieces that I have on my desk here, these I have high resolution scans, so I can still, I have the imagery, and the essential aspect of the piece is still here with me, So I don't know. Hopefully that answered most of the question.
Oh, I think so. There's a mouth.
Is it a moth?
I don't know. It's coming after me.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
We have a little jumping spider that lives over the door, which is
Oh.
he's cool. We have also a green tree frog that comes and visits my door late at night and sticks on the window.
The amount of detail you put into a piece is just staggering.
Oh, thank you very much.
The texture is almost lifelike to the eye.
I appreciate it. I do like to, I let myself get lost in the piece, and I kind of approach a lot of it in the opposite way that people are normally taught. How they tell you to work on a piece, holistically all over it. I've never really worked that way unless I'm working for a contract where they need to see the whole thing at once. Like when I'm doing stuff for myself, I don't really buy into any particular rule set about how to go about it. I just let myself play with it, because that's kind of the reason I started doing art in the beginning, was because it was where I could get lost and just like explore.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm doing my own work, I don't really bind it to any particular philosophy or rule set that doesn't already appeal to me. I will, however, try to like step outside of my own way of thinking sometimes if I find myself repeating myself a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I notice that pretty quickly, which is why I have a hard time sometimes doing series work, because I feel like most of the series work ends up just being a repetition of the same statement over and over again.
Yes.
And if I do series work, it happens more naturally, I guess you could say.
Right.
It evolves more fluidly.
All right, we've been going out this 30 minutes, so I'm going to say our website is alanwilliamsstudio.com, and this video will be up under the stories, and then it will go on our Patreon, which is at patreon.com/Alan Williams, and then it will be released on YouTube and everything. So you can always just check us out on YouTube, which is at Alan Williams Studio.
So one of the things I wanted to mention too was that people ask a lot about the stuff I like to look at reference-wise or just inspiration-wise. I'm gonna make a Pinterest board that's going to be public, where I'm going to start. I'll post about it on my Instagram page when I do it, but it'll be just specifically for Instagram and for the people who ask that question. And what I'm going to start collecting some of that stuff on a public board so that people can kind of share in it.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea. How do you feel about the shine of the 8B?
Well, I don't notice it so much, but if I'm working on on this paper, I don't usually mind it. But if I'm working on a thicker, smoother watercolor paper, I'll usually get rid of the shine with a little bit of a Liquitex matte medium that I airbrush on top of it, and it kills the gloss of the paper of the graphite.
And where we get the ampersand clay board is from Dick Blick, right?
Yeah.
We just order it online at Dick Blick.
Yeah, Dick Blick is, they have it. That's when I'm doing graphite washes, and I usually actually put a gloss varnish on that because it's such a shiny surface to begin with.
Right.
Once you get that, it actually ends up making it look like almost like a metal, those old silver plate photographs.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you've really gotten a lot of graphite in it.
What are your top studio necessities you use for your work?
Well, literally would be the pencil, the kind of graphite and stuff. The thing that I would carry with me if I had to just take the minimal amount to somewhere else to work is going to be a pad like this and a pencil like this. That's the only real necessity that I have other than light.
And your cume?
Well, my pencil sharpeners, I guess you could say. But, I have, for travel, like the Cum pencil sharpeners, Cums, K-U-M.
Mm-hmm.
The long points where, this side pulls off the wood and this side sharpens the lead. These are, to my knowledge, these are the best ones for pocket,
Stick them in your pocket.
Yep. But I also love these Carl Angel 5s from my studio. These are metal, the metal sharpeners. So, and they're really sturdy and they last a long time. And then the other ones are the Dale, D-A-H-L-E sharpeners are really good.
Yeah. Pencil, paper?
Yeah,
Pencil
but
sharpener?
the only real necessity is, pencil and paper if I'm drawing.
Maybe a kneaded eraser?
Yeah, I've got a lot of stuff in my studio, but it's because I've collected a lot of stuff and I like studio stuff. You know what I mean? When you talk about necessity, most of this is here because I collect it, not because I need it. I only really need a pencil and a piece of paper, and if I had to, I could do this with typing paper and a school pencil.
Mm-hmm.
It may not have the same kind of velvet quality to it, but I would find something with that.
Right.
The
pads of the Strathmore 400 series medium weight drawing paper they're like $10 for 24 sheets.
For the big ones like this, yeah. For the
big-
smaller
yeah,
ones,
they have
they're
smaller
less
ones,
even than
too.
that. Yeah.
They're not super expensive. They're just but the texture is really nice.
Yeah.
We were going to say thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I hope that answers the question.
I think so. Yes, it does.
I don't want people to get the impression that,
Say thank you for answering.
yeah, I don't want people to get the impression that you have to buy all of the toys and stuff that I have around here to do this. It's not.
Just likes toys.
I just, well, I'm 53 years old.
Yeah,
I've
that's
been
fine.
collecting stuff for a long time, and there are different things like, okay, so if I'm doing contract work, it might be a little bit different. I might need my,
This many pencils.
I might need the Cintiq,
Right.
for doing digital stuff.
Yes.
But people do, work with the tablet, the Wacom tablets, which are, a fraction of that price.
Right.
I just learned how to do digital stuff on a Cintiq because it was, I didn't really know any better, and I bought it. That's the first thing I bought, and it's the closest thing to working like
Oh, right,
traditionally.
right.
So Vicky likes making fun of my pencil hoarding.
He is a pencil hoarder. You cannot deny it.
I just said it out loud in public.
I know.
I wasn't denying.
It is a bit of
Vicky, on the other hand, she doesn't like new stuff.
I don't
Like
know.
I gave her a brand new computer 6 months ago that's been sitting next to her old computer it's actually swelling her old computer because
I
it's
know
so
it
old.
is. Yeah, I know.
The battery is
Yeah,
swelling
no,
and
it's
about to
'cause
burst into flame, and she won't
I know.
switch over.
I know. You know what? I have to switch our all the financial stuff over. That's what I. Okay. I will. I know that is bad, but I'm still watching on the iPad. First generation iPad.
She has a well, I mean,
They have
just
2 other iPads.
yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I've always been a sort of a I love tech
love
gear
and I like to
and-
use it until it literally is run to the ground.
yeah.
Till it won't. You shake it. and
She
go,
was
"It won't
probably
start."
she was probably well, you were the last person that I knew that had a Nokia. Those old really like you could those flip phones you could throw against a wall and they wouldn't break.
There was nothing wrong with my flip phone. Well,
There
probably
wasn't.
was.
And I
That's
got her
usually why I ended up.
but I got her addicted to smartphones.
Yes, that's true. How many hands do you have? That's what I get asked when people look at the drawing stuff. Stop.
Oh,
Because of all the yes.
because of what do you
Hey,
mean?
here's your screwdrivers you were looking for.
That's one of them. Yeah, I found
the other
them.
one. Did you find your blue one?
Yeah. No. Wait, how many hands? What do you mean?
Like, because you have all these pencils,
Oh,
you
yeah.
really only have 2 hands
Right.
and work with one.
But I work with that one a lot, and I like to. I don't like to work with the same tool all the time. You know. I like to experiment with different things.
I like coming in here and looking at stuff like this. Like, look at this.
It's the small scale
It's a
ruler.
tiny little ruler,
Yeah.
which is not coming into focus. I mean, it's teeny tiny. Inches.
I have these little look. I have these little French curves that I made too.
French curves, yes.
See, because they don't really. I went online and they don't really make a small set of French curves, so I had to make a set for myself, which I did.
Oh, Larry the Landlord Llama is back.
Oh, that's Larry the Landlord Llama.
Yes.
That's a cool
I
one.
like chuckling at all the people's names. I know, he loves his French curves. Do you listen to music or watch videos while you draw?
I listen to
Yes.
music sometimes, and I watch videos. That's why my iPad is up here. I also listen to audiobooks a lot. And if you didn't guess by now, I listen to a lot of horror, and I watch a lot of bad B horror films.
Yep, that's true.
I say a lot. I mean, there's a lot out there that I haven't seen though.
He just sticks it on and draws and listens to
Yeah.
it. What's really good is when I wake up super duper early and you're still working and I scare the crap out of you.
That's true because I
Is
have
there
earbuds in,
earbuds in?
and she sneaks up behind me and jumps at me.
Not on purpose, though.
I do it to you on purpose.
You do it to me on purpose. I know that.
I get up at around.
Video.
I go to sleep at about 5:30 to 7, anywhere from 5:30 to 7 in the morning, and then I get up around 2 or 3, and I usually end up walking in her office and scaring the crap out of her.
Yes. Favorite horror books?
Let's see.
Well, you like the Lovecraft, yes.
Well, I do. But I like Lovecraft for the mythos mostly, and I like actually the mythos as it is presented by other people. Like there's Brian Lumley did some Lovecraft stuff that was really good, like the Adventures of Titus Crow, which were pretty cool. In terms of world building mythos, you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. I just finally saw Good Omens.
Oh, did you?
last week, too.
Yeah,
Remember?
I like pretty much anything Neil Gaiman has ever written.
Yes.
But
That was so good.
there's a lot of Stephen King stuff that I like. There's a lot of like I don't know. I get in. I'll read all these. There's a let's see. What was the last one I saw? There was some Dean Koontz stuff, the Watcher stuff that he did that was
It all
cool.
runs together after.
It does. I have a I have like 200 or 300 audiobooks on Audible.com
That's pretty good.
that I saw. By the time I get through the list, I've forgotten most of what happened in the first book, so I can go back
Go
around
back and
keep
read
like,
them again
yeah.
or listen to them. You listen to them. Would you ever draw Cthulhu? You have drawn Cthulhu.
I've drawn sort of Cthulhu, but I've never really
Variation.
approached doing Cthulhu in and of itself as a named creature, mainly because I've been waiting kind of in a way to do it. I don't want to reproduce. There's a lot of Cthulhu art out there already, and so I don't want to reproduce what I've already seen. I want to do something, that is a little bit different for me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I will tell you that I worked on the first concept film I ever worked on was Mountains of Madness with Del Toro, and I mean that film never got made, but he did have. There was a scene in the film where we were at least toying with the idea of showing something like Cthulhu. So I did get to do some variations of it for that, but I guarantee you the stuff that we were playing with for that film was not like what you've normally seen like illustrated for the normal the books that are out there right now.
Are you a fan of Algernon Blackwood?
I, the name sounds familiar to me, but I can't place it. So now I'll have to go look it up. Anything that people mention and ask me of, I always end up going and looking it up anyway. So.
What is the title of this art? That often doesn't come about until I'm like, what is the title?
This I don't know yet.
We don't know. It doesn't have a title as of yet.
So.
Do you like sculpting?
I love sculpting. I just haven't had a chance to. I haven't had a chance. I haven't taken the time to do a lot of it yet, but I've been playing with it.
You've been
quite
super
a,
busy this year.
Yeah,
You love
I
it.
have like a whole desk set up over there to play with. I've sculpted little things, but not much of it yet. But I want to.
I kind of like that center part right there.
This?
This part right here.
It's like
What
almost
it's doing, yeah.
kind of a rib.
Yeah. All right, remember our website is alanwilliamsstudio.com. The Patreon is patreon.com/Alan Williams. We have a Twitter feed, it's I Just Draw. And the YouTube channel is Alan Williams Studio. So these will go up on Patreon first and then will be released to YouTube. We're going to be at Dragon Con next weekend, and then we're going to come back and turn around and fly out to Lightbox Expo and be in Pasadena, California on the 6th, 7th, and 8th. So if you are out there.
And in November we
You have a show.
Have a show at-
solo show at Copro again.
in Santa Monica.
Yes.
That's in theory.
There was research done that suggests listening to media with dialogue or lyrics can cripple creative flow for the planning, drafting stages of illustration or paintings. But once you get into it,
There are definitely times when I don't want to hear anything. I'm like in complete silence in the room. Other times when I'm in the midst of it, like if I were to say going into rendering all this, then I could have music. My
Right.
mind is better if I turn it off and just let it.
oh yeah, they
Let it go.
continued rendering and detail stage. It
So
helps.
I would say that I would agree with that. For me, anyway. The only exception is like if I'm like. Sometimes when I'm conceiving of things, if I want to do it like fast and intense, and I'll put on something like real, like industrial and glitchy and
Metal.
yeah. Well,
You listen to
not so well. Sometimes it depends on but
The mood you're in.
but mostly like I like stuff that sounds like Transformers transforming. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
I like mechanical music a lot for that because it just there's a lot of frantic energy in that I like can translate into the work. So
All right, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
Can you explain atmospheric perspective?
only in this way that if something is in front of you, if it's close to you, there's less air and less humidity between you and it. The more distance there is between you and it, the more humidity is between you and it, and the humidity comes across as being something
Fuzzy?
that compresses values. It'll make whites less white and darks less dark. It compresses values as it goes further away. in a normal daylight scene.
And it'll be more detailed the closer it is.
The
right?
closer it is, the more high contrast it is. The further
Okay.
away, the less contrast is there. So
You really did that? I thought you would have to think about that one.
no,
but not
atmospheric perspective is something that you can make use of in a very microcosmic scale, and that's in part like a lot of times what happens. What people are trying to do when they're talking about losing edges, it's pushing like the darkness around and obscuring like things to make depth pop out, right? So if I were going to render this tightly, like if these were viewed as knees, which they kind of are, you know, if they're knees of this creature or if they're just protrusions, like these things would be very high contrast, and as it pushed back, the value range would compress. The whites would be less high, and the darks would be less dark.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
until you got to a point, and it very much depends on what your light's doing in the scene.
Right. We always, the easiest way to see it is when you're, if you're driving along, like we'd always drive through West Virginia and you're looking at the mountains very, very far away, and you'd think they would be darker, but they're actually much lighter. And
Yeah, I mean, in a very, you know, focused way. If you walk outside during a rainstorm, you see it that way too. It's just rain instead of humidity, right? You can barely see the house across the street, but the things that are closer to you are much in greater detail.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Will you use the computer to draw the picture one day? He uses actually.
I've done a lot of magic card art digitally, so you know, I have no aversion to doing digital work. I sculpted digitally for some of the films that I've worked on. I don't really. I'm not one of the I'm not an artist that says that, you know, you shouldn't use whatever media you feel at home with.
Right.
I think if you like to do digital work, you should leap into that. If
And
you like to do
you
traditional,
jump back and forth.
I go back and
between-
forth. Yeah, I don't have a
Sometimes you
bias.
lay pieces out digitally.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll take something like this in digitally and play with it, and then bring that back out into the real world. But you know, I don't really look down on anyone who does digital work or think that it's, you know, you just have to do what's your nature.
Yes.
You know,
ZBrush.
I love ZBrush.
ZBrush.
It's like my
Marvelous
favorite.
Designer.
I
What
use
are your other
Marvelous
ones?
Designer, ZBrush. I've started playing with Substance Painter. I have Marmoset tool bag, but I haven't really dug into that yet. I use Keyshot for rendering, you know, some scenes for realistic text, like realistic renders and light renders and stuff.
The digital versus traditional war is dying dead already. Well, people keep bringing it up though.
Well, you know,
It's ridiculous.
I hear a lot of it. You know, when you go into different forums, it still, you know, crops up. But I'm glad that most people are getting to a point where they go, I don't really care. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't
Right.
matter to me. Whatever it takes to get to the image. I don't care how you do it. You know, it
What-
doesn't matter.
What
So
types of erasers do you use? Do you use a kneaded eraser?
I use kneaded erasers, and I use these. Well, that's a colored pencil.
I know.
So you have to be
Got it.
careful. This one. I use these abrasive erasers that are like the eraser sticks.
Faber-Castell again?
Faber-Castell. This is an antique one though. These are the vintage ones. They actually make one, the Faber-Castell Perfection erasers that are white that you can buy now. That are
7058.
yeah. And I like these because I wouldn't use them on this kind of paper though. I would use them on the board. That's what these are for.
Playboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only use soft erasers or those white like
Like the ones that
Tombow mono types, and these things, like these electric erasers with the white plastic, you know, that erases pretty well. And this is a Sakura electric eraser. These are like
Wait,
the
you
best.
spin it too fast. People can't read it.
These are, well, this shape, a Sakura, they don't make anymore. They make the new ones that are
Right.
called Sumo Grip,
Okay.
but they're the same powerful interiors. From what I haven't bought one yet. These are technically vintage now.
Ooh, we've been doing art so long. you know.
So I took
Great.
I took one and I put a Dremel chuck bit holder in it, and now it uses the 2mm white erasers instead of the fatter erasers that normally go into it. So I have two of these, and I have one that holds like the fat and one that holds the 2mm.
Nice.
But yeah, I love these things. I eventually will get one of the Sumo just to see if they're as powerful as these old ones are. But for a long time, these were the best ones you could get, and they usually ran anywhere from $30 to $60, depending on where you got it. Yeah.
Sumo Group is very nice. They said Sumo
Oh.
Group is very nice.
Well, it's good to hear. I'm glad that it didn't. Sometimes the newer version doesn't seem like it is as high quality as the older version, but I feel like that wouldn't happen with something as well used as those.
I see your drawings in my nightmares.
Oh, well, I'm not sure how to take that. I guess thank you. It's funny. A lot of the things that I do, even though they wear a grotesque mask, a grotesque face, a lot of what I do are guardian figures in my own mind. They're more like there to they're peaceful characters that are just terrible to behold, I guess you could say. A lot of times they fulfill the purpose of being a guardian, a shepherd, or some sort of
That's me.
well, that's you.
I'm peaceful but terrible to behold.
Peaceful. You're half right.
I'm terrible to behold.
No, you're peaceful, but you're not terrible to behold.
Yeah. Only when I'm mad. I did the complete trope thing of where the children did not hear me say it 4 times, and you walk in and go, "Yeah, go do this," and they both jumped up. I was like, I lost it. Happens.
Oh,
Teenagers.
you said the trope?
Wasn't that the trope? Isn't that, use that correctly?
Yeah.
It's a trope, right? Where they won't listen to one parent.
And then they listen to the other one for some reason?
Yes.
They only listen to me because I almost never yell. And you yell all the time, so. I'm kidding. Sort of.
It's I've told you this 3 times, and the next time I tell you, I'm going to have to scream at you. Do you want me to
I
take
think
it there?
kids do that though, right? There's one parent that usually is the most responsible one, and they get used to
The most responsible one.
they get used to ignoring,
Yeah,
or making
out.
you say things 3 or 4 times.
it's fine.
But,
I was up way too early this morning.
well, Duncan took his SATs, right?
SAT, yeah. The Sumo Grip manual is also very nice and easy to erase with.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I was looking for the version of the older Sakuras that there used to be a version of it that had an actual plug-in that you could plug it in.
We had one of those.
I did at one point a long time ago, and now you can only find them like on eBay, and they're about $700.
Yeah, we're not buying.
I didn't. There
I
was
know.
one available. I didn't buy it.
I knew it was being funny.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
There's a guy on Instagram. If you've never seen his work, he does some really beautifully refined pencil work. I think his actual tag is Art Moron, and he does these beautiful like cathedrals and things done in graphite. And he has one of them, and I was like, "Oh, I want it!" But obviously, they're never gonna.
I think
You're never
the cord
gonna.
just finally died on yours, didn't it?
I never had a cord for the Sakura. I had the old Kohinoors, the big Kohinoors, that you could, that seemed like you could erase through a plank of wood with it, and it would just eat through it.
We got about 6 minutes left. 8
Cool.
minutes left.
So every week we reach a point in the day on Saturday and go, "Are we going to do the live feed tonight?" And I was like, "Oh no." Today at this time I was like, "Yeah, we should do it." Because it was so much fun the last time, and it's.
And
I'm getting
next
used
week-
to doing it.
Next week
and
we'll be
yeah,
at Dragon Con, so we probably won't be here.
yep. We
We'll
will
say
have,
we're at Dragon Con.
and I want to say again, we will have those that very limited edition of the Pan's Labyrinth prints. We're only allowed to sell 10 of each one.
Right.
Well, 10 in artist proof. Probably not allowed to sell the artist proof, but I'm gonna do it anyway. No? Okay, just 10. We're just doing 10. Contractually, we can only sell 10 of each one. So, not that you have to be there to buy it, but I just, if anybody was interested in it and was going to be at Dragon Con, I would mention it.
Yes.
That was the highest pressure sales technique I've ever used. Just then.
Oh yeah, Candor Arts, and yes, we are talking about electric erasers since they are since they're in South Korea. There's lots since they're close to Japan.
Oh yeah? But see, I got one of these, which actually, for what it is actually really good. And it actually holds the I said actually like 4 times in a row just then. But it holds the larger erasers and the smaller ones, and it's called a AFMAT. And this was like $10, and it's just like AAA batteries, and it works just fine. I'm not sure how long the motor lasts or anything, because the one criticism I've heard about these online was that they tend to break sooner than the other kind. But this one, I've had it for a while. I don't use it all the time because it doesn't. It's not quite as powerful as the other, but it would work just fine.
Yep.
And for $10. Oh.
Dragon Con, we're going to be in the vendors hall on the first floor. Our booth number is 1206. So we are not in the art show this time.
Last year we were one of the guests at the art show, and this year we're just.
You were.
I was, yeah.
I was just
Well,
a tag along.
I say we.
I know, I'm teasing.
We did a seminar too there that was fun. We had people drawing at the art show. We're doing graphite and powdered graphite and stuff. That was really fun too.
It was very fun. Oak and Art said they could check for a similar model over there.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
We will have to message you.
I love art supplies. I mean, I was the kid that always would love getting all the supplies for school. You know, I never did that great in school, but I love the supplies. You know, but
You are such an amazing artist.
Oh, thank you. You're very
one
kind.
of my favorites.
Very, very kind. Thank you.
Here we got a couple minutes left.
It's very spider-like, this thing.
It is very spider-like. Oh, and the week after next, we'll be at Lightbox. That's going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of stuff to do before.
Tons of artists going to be at Lightbox if you're in
Lightbox Expo.
Like I think
Put
it's
on by
mostly artists.
Schoolism.
Yep.
Bunch of concept artists. Bunch of just everybody.
Everybody. Everything.
We'll get to see everybody.
Lots of people.
Ian will be there.
Yep.
Carla.
Yay.
Mike. All of them. And it is being held in the same place that Monster Palooza is. At Pasadena Convention Center.
Yeah. It's a nice space.
It is a nice space. I'm getting tired just thinking of everything I have to do.
I'm getting tired thinking of everything you have to do.
You have to sign those pieces tonight, so I can do that tomorrow.
Oh, I have to sign?
You have to sign them, yes.
Okay, I can do that. It's the least I can do.
They're on my desk. I like the way it's looking.
Thank you.
I really like the textures your pencils give. What site would I go to be able to make some up for my art? You just picked those off of Amazon, right?
Yeah, most of everything that I like.
JetPens.com.
Caran Dash fixed pencils, I think you can get them at JetPens, but these also you can get it on Amazon. The leads I get on Amazon, and the paper is from Amazon. So
JetPens.com is dangerous.
I go back and forth sometimes between using the mechanical pencils and using wood pencils because I like the broad area of the lead on the wood pencil because I like to draw from the side a lot. I don't know, it's moods. I go through moods where I want to change things up and do different.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually kind of resolved to just a few different things now. It's like either the fixed pencils, the Tombow Monos. If I want to do like technical leads, I can play with these things, which I sharpen. This is a, what is this? This is a 1.0 or a 0.9 Faber-Castell lead holder. It's, the little mechanical pencils that just do the click, the knock erase thing.
Sharpen.
Yeah. I can take it in this little thing. It looks like a nuclear power plant. And it's a GEDS, G-E-D-D-E-S, GEDS eraser. I mean a GEDS sharpener. And you can get like a needle point with it. I don't know if you can see that.
You're crazy. Yes.
But you don't need a needle point for most things, only when you're going back in and like tickling an area into submission, so to speak.
Do you own a .2 mechanical pencil?
I do.
Oh,
I do.
Of
A
course he does.
Pentel.
And he sharpens that too.
I sharpen that as well. It's harder to sharpen. The lead breaks a lot.
All right. It is almost time because it's almost 10 o'clock. and this thing is going to flash at me. It only gives me 30 seconds.
And it doesn't let you save them as much, does it? Or
It
does it?
doesn't let me save it to the phone. I think Instagram updated, unless I've got something switched. But that's going over there. So.
Luckily, we have the 4K going as well.
Yes. So,
And I pretty much stayed in the
Mostly.
in the area.
Where does he keep pulling this stuff out of?
Oh, I have
Sorry.
piles of stuff
He
everywhere.
has piles of stuff beside
I
him.
needed more places to put stuff, so I bought
So
these
that's
wooden
not-
boxes and screwed them into my table.
Piles of stuff.
Show them that piece. You never did show
I
them.
know, but the other people can't see.
Oh, okay.
27 seconds remaining. Come see us at Dragon Con if you're going to be over there, or Lightbox. Thank you guys for coming, and we will not see you next week because we'll be at Dragon Con.
Yep.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you.
Oh no, now it's saving. Aha.
Yay!
What the hell? The last 2 weeks it didn't save.
You did something wrong. Probably it was user error.
Fuck off.